Okay, so this good. Good evening, basically, colleagues in Albania, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from the United States. Thank you very much for participating in this webinar on the links between university and business. My name is Bleriana Bino, and I will be the moderator for the webinar today. I represent 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐚, a think tank based in Tirana. And one of our key pillars of works is also strengthening the links between research, universities, and other actors in society. And in this regard, we are very happy to join the Erasmus plus 𝐸SIA partnership, a project funded by the European Union and led by the Mediterranean University of Albania. We will hear more about this project and the initiative of strengthening knowledge transfer units in 5 universities in Albania by Nevila Gjindi, the project leader. Thanks, Nevila, in advance for the presentation. The aim of the webinar, as you already know, is to exchange experience and best practices on how to foster this collaboration. But most importantly, to learn a little bit more about the best practices and why not even the challenges from the American perspective, specifically from the venture partners at the University of Colorado Boulder, Student Venture Pathways, and the University of Arizona Center of Innovation. So thank you very much, Marta, Paul, and Anita, for taking time and for joining today the webinar and talking to all of us. And of course, I take this opportunity to thank Erida again, our colleague at 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐚 and at 𝐸SIA, for facilitating the organization of this webinar. We have present today here online researchers, lecturers, project managers, representatives from 5 universities in Albania, both public and private, Mediterranean University of Albania, University of Shkodra, University of Durrës, European University of Tirana and Professional College of Tirana, as well as a representative from the public institutions, such as the National Agency for Scientific Research and Innovation, civil society organization, and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Tirana, and a few business representatives as well. And I believe that I speak for the entire Albanian crew, let's say, that we are looking forward to the presentations and particularly learning more about the colleagues across the Atlantic. We will start with Nevila. She will introduce the key achievements of 𝐸SIA, and then we will move on to Marta, Paul, and Anita. We will have some time for open discussion once the presentation are completed. In order to save time, we will start immediately with the presentations, and once we have the open discussion, everyone who would like to take the digital floor can also introduce themselves and the institution that they are representing. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. It is really great to have a full room. So without further ado, the digital floor is for Nevila.
Thank you very much to everyone participating in this webinar, and thank you for committing your time to our colleagues overseas. And a big thank you to Erida, part of our team, part of 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐚, for making this happen. I don't want to add more than Bleriana said. I'll just jump in saying something about our project. But it's an honor that our project is going beyond the European, the European continent. It's crossing now, and we're proud of it because this project, it's the baby we are building. We are growing up in this country. It's a new idea. It is, we name it as University to Society Intermediaries in Albania, the co-production of knowledge, that research that matters. It has been a long journey, not long enough to make a big change, but long enough to work with all of us and make some progress. So, which I would like to share with everyone today. So next. So this project is an Erasmus Plus capacity building in higher education project. It's part of the framework in the Erasmus program, supported from the European Commission. It's co-funded from the European Commission. It's one of the programs in the European Union. The period of implementation is 2 years, is 24 months. It started in January last year and it will last till, we're almost done. It's 3 more months to go. The coordinator is the Mediterranean University of Albania, which I represent today. And a good project without good partners will never work. So that's the first thing that the project manager should know when picking and finding out partners. So I'm proud to announce that this project has been useful and successful because of our partners too, which is the European University of Tirana, as Veriana mentioned before. It's University of Durrës, University of Shkodra, Professional College of Tirana. And also, as we are talking as a university and society, we have very key partners, which is one of them, it's a public institution, is the National Agency for Science and Research and Innovation. It's the Center for Comparative and International Studies, is CIDEV. It's also, I might forget something. It's the Chamber of Commerce for sure, because we're bringing in businesses. And we have 3 more very important partners. We used to work in the past with them and we built a good partnership and they have a good experience to share with other Albanian partners. So we have 3 other partners, which is the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Organizational Studies. It's ACEU, is the Center for Accreditation and Entrepreneurship of European Projects and Businesses in Germany, in Münster in Germany, and University Guglielmo Marconi in Italy. So a full house of partners, having in mind objectives like foster effective and sustainable university to society collaboration in Albania, with impact in the development and European integration process of the country. There are 2 specific objectives: enhance the capacities of the universities in Albania, because Erasmus Plus capacity building in higher education is focused on enhancing the capacities in the universities in Albania to co-produce knowledge and research with impact through establishment of knowledge transfer and innovation brokerage units. Introduce and expand co-production of knowledge that is academically insightful and practically actionable in Albanian context through establishment of networks of partners in quadruple helix model. Why UCIA? I'm using the acronyms actually. UCIA was designed to address challenges of strengthening the collaboration between universities and societies in Albania and drawing from the quadruple helix model of collaboration among research, policy, business, civil society, and media. We have been working hard, as I mentioned, to have good results, and the results expected was establishing a knowledge transfer and innovation brokerage unit in 5 universities. All the universities, Albanian universities that are partners in this project, they already have now UCIA units as a mechanism that links and as an environment where they can share, stay together, institutionalize their partnership in a sustainable way via university to business, government, civil society, and media. Enhanced partnership and collaborative projects between researchers, academic students, and on-site and business sectors, SMEs, startups, NGOs, CSOs, think tanks, public bodies, and media to co-produce knowledge that is applicable to local contexts and priorities in Albania and research with impacts that matters to address real-life problems and challenges in Albania. Increased opportunities that give simple, direct, and accessible way of interaction from stakeholders within the quadruple helix. 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 has fostered this networking, brokerage, matching, and collaboration among project partners and stakeholders within the quadruple helix that we have tried to build by creating added value for the entire higher education ecosystem in Albania. Transferable and replicable models of collaboration between actors in quadruple helix by providing mobility opportunities to young researchers to circulate between academia, business sector, public sector, civil society, and media. What are the outputs? Study on collaboration between universities and society in Albania. Establishment, as I mentioned, of 5 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 brokerage unit and strategic analysis of its functioning. We produce models for co-production of knowledge and research, produce guidelines and best practices. We established a network of knowledge and research with impact in quadruple helix model, publication and promotion of secondary research scheme that's strengthening the university to business cooperation, publication and promotion of the policy challenge fund that enables students to co-produce policy solution by working with researchers and in collaboration with policy makers. I will share with you the overall project results. We started with a project logo, which was designed based on the feedback, the input and feedback we had from our partners. Then we designed the project website. Then we set up a quality assurance plan. We have project social media accounts, and they are very active. We already have them. We started with a management and risk plan. We built a communication and dissemination plan. There were 7 steering committee meetings happened, 50 technical bilateral meetings. We already have submitted a technical report to 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶, which was successful. And we have already 1 external evaluation report from our external evaluator. Do we have a national impact? Yes. 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 project was part of the focus group on Albania's economic reform program and EU for Education Fair. I just wanted to share with you that next week we are still invited on the Albania's economic reform program meetings that they are having with the stakeholders for the plan 2022 to 2024. 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 has 9 work packages. Let's start with the first work package and the results of this work package. The first one was assessment of current university to society linkage. The focus of this work package was to know better, to assess and know better how these linkages work and are they productive. The work package was led from SciDev. They organized 6 focus groups. 345 individuals participated in the research. We had 219 respondents in the survey, 17 in-depth interview with policy, academia, business, civil society, and media. 1 public event with stakeholders and EU delegation. And 1 study was published in English and in Albanian. And the work package 2, led by the European University of Tirana, was designing and development of knowledge transfer and innovation brokerage unit in Albanian higher education institutions. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, now we have 5 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 manual English in Albanian, 5 𝐀𝐫𝐢𝐳𝐶 brokerage unit which are functioning in 5 higher education institutions in Albania, 3 peer-to-peer workshops that happen in Tirana, Durrës, and Shkodra with 62 participants, 3 exchange experience workshop, 1 in Belgrade, Rome, Münster, 40 participants for each workshop, and the work package is completed. Next. The work package 3 was led from the University, Belgrade University. Design and development of models for co-production of knowledge and research with impact through exchange of experience. 2 meetings to consult the process and to structure the manual were organized. Now we have 1 manual entrepreneurial university handbook. We had an exchange experience workshop in Belgrade in October last year with 36 participants, and another 1 exchange experience workshop in Münster with 41 participants. And this work package is completed. Next. The work package 4 was led from online collaborative platform for quadruple helix, was led from the Università Guglielmo Marconi in Italy. Together, we developed models of cooperation in quadruple helix. 3 trainings on how to use the platform were with 55 participants were conducted. Now we have an online platform incorporated with the UCEA website, which is functional, and till in the end of the project, it's still being enriched from contacts from all the stakeholders of quadruple helix. We organized a workshop in Rome to train staff in UCEA platform with 55 participants. And this is a work on process, but is going to end within not only with the implementation of the project, but it's going to continue with being enriched with other contacts from business, civil society, media, policy making. Work package 5 has a joint leading partnership. It's a professional college of Tirana and the Chamber of Commerce of Tirana. They both work together on piloted university to business cooperation through second researcher program. The 4 roundtables were organized with university to business cooperation. 1 call for expression of interest on SMEs and research was published. 5 higher education institutions concluded the program, secondary researchers, and 5 case studies were presented in a Rome workshop. And this work package is completed also. The work package 6 is also co-led from the Mediterranean University of Albania and the University of Shkodra. Pilot in university to policy cooperation through policy labs. We organized 5 roundtables, 1 call for expression, 5 collaborative projects, and 5 policy papers were presented in Rome workshop. This also is completed. The work package 7 was led from the Center for Comparative and International Studies in cooperation with ASEO from Münster, Germany. And the focus was quality assurance. Based on the plan, the quality assurance plan, we had a set of indicators to measure and to monitor and to evaluate. So 3 peer-to-peer workshops in person, 2 Belgrade workshops in person, 3 Rome workshops online and in person, 2 Münster workshops online and in person. We have an external evaluation midterm report. We have minutes and monitoring reports from 7 steering committee meetings, monitoring quality assurance committee meetings, and also monitoring bilateral and technical meetings. Is almost completed. We're still waiting for another external evaluation report, the final report from the external evaluator. And also the 2 partners leading this work package are going to prepare at the end a full report for all based on the initial quality assurance plan. Work package 8, dissemination, a very important part of our project, was co-led from University of Durrës and CIDED. We started with preparation of a dissemination strategy, 3 social media accounts regularly updated. Also, we had event dissemination on Facebook, in LinkedIn, and website, and branding and template preparation, roundtable with industry and other stakeholders, business forum to build a relationship between university and stakeholders. This is not completed yet because it will continue till the end of the project, but the part and the work that the dissemination are two co-leaders of the dissemination that they will last forever because the website is going to be maintained and has a lot of information on it. Some analytics on dissemination, Facebook Insights. You see the figures. Now we have 670 and plus followers. Some of the people that I see online, they know the result. This is a women project. Our managers of the partners, they are all women. And it couldn't happen differently, but 71% of our followers are women also. So the page reached 34,160. The page visits, it's around 4,500. Next, and analytics for the LinkedIn. We have a page view for 2,972 and unique visitors, it's 2,709. Some visitor demographics, they are mainly from education, from business development, community and social services, information technology and research. Actually, these were the target group that we had in our plans for the dissemination. What is next? Yes, it's very important to have a sustainability of knowledge transfer and brokerage units, which is a lot of work behind. Yes, it's scale up for the secondary researcher pilot initiatives and quality challenge funds. And it's very important that all our partners do the capitalization of quadruple helix network for scaling up. And that it's coming soon, but it has behind the work of all the partners of this project. And we are proud to share with you today what we have done, an open mind to listen to suggestions for improvement and sure to share and to listen the other initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nevila, for the detailed presentation of UCIA, and I think we need to understand the project in context of the challenges that the Albanian higher education system faces, particularly considering the transition phase, but also the changes in the mission of the university itself. So for the colleagues from the United States, basically the third mission of the university, or the expansion of the university from teaching and knowledge production into knowledge transfer, technology transfer, and engagement with the communities is a relatively new, let's say, concept and model in Albania. And with the support of the European Union, as Nevila mentioned, we've tried to strengthen existing initiatives and build new ones in these 5 universities, supporting them also with equipment for the setup of these knowledge transfer units. But we very much look forward to learn from what we've done so far and to continue expanding it and consolidating it further with existing partners, with other partners as well. So that's why we are, in a sense, very interested to learn more on your side as well. So on this note, I would like to give the floor to Marta. I know that I understand she has not been feeling well, but still she joined us for the webinar today, so this is very much appreciated. Thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that. Please apologize. I apologize for my voice today, but hopefully the presentation will still be interesting. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the presentation. And I can still see you. Can you see my,
yes,
screen?
Marta.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I'm the director of licensing for venture partners at CU Boulder, but my my experience with technology transfer actually started on the other side of the licensing agreement. I spun out a couple of companies that were based on technology that we licensed from various universities around the country, but also from European universities. So that was back in 2002. And back then, technology transfer was very different even in the United States, it was very different than it is today. So armed with that experience, I joined the technology transfer office at the University of Colorado Boulder, trying to do exactly what my startup was doing, which is to bridge the gap in the valley of death. We call it valley of death. You probably have heard of this concept, but the idea is that at least in the United States, the government-funded research, right? The government funding goes only so far. And then the industry expects that the technology developed at the university is at a certain level. And in between, there is nothing. There are very limited resources for translating this research into something commercially viable for the industry to become interested. And it's not always exactly like this. It's not always such a dire situation. It really depends on the type of industry and the capabilities that they have to pick up on this research. But there is a huge need for universities to provide the resources to bridge this valley of death. And the way that we at Venture Partners started thinking about what is it that the Technology Transfer Office needs to become in order to accomplish this. And you can see, this graphic was actually created by my boss, Bryn Reese, the commercialization hierarchy of needs. So there is the pyramid, the hierarchy of needs you might be familiar with, which is the emotional, the psychological hierarchy of needs, but also if you look at the traditional, bottom of the pyramid, the conventional technology transfer, which is actually what I had dealt with on the startup side, which is, generally focusing only on passive licensing, right? There was this idea that every university tech transfer office, the technology will just fly off the shelves and companies will pick it up and make products and everything will be really rosy, but that's not what actually happens for 98% of technologies that are developed at the university. So we started thinking about what kind of resources our researchers need in order to accomplish translating their research into basically commercial impact. And so we eventually came up with this. So this is what we show them. This is the two paths that our office can offer to them. And this is, just to clarify, this is for technologies that are owned by the university. So in the United States, or intellectual property developed at the university is owned by the university. And I know that somebody else will be speaking about the situation where it's student innovation. So this is resources available, or two paths available to researchers that developed university-owned inventions. And one of them is a startup, and that's, I would say, 90% of our licensing and our efforts is into startups. And then also the other path is into partnering with a company. And you can see that the beginning of the path is similar, right? You need to have some intellectual property to base this on. Intellectual property, I always say, does not really have intrinsic value. It only has value if it protects something that could be a valuable product. And so the important thing there is that you have to look at the product market fit for the product that this IP could be is covering, and that is really how that fits in with the current industry need. And then you need a little bit of funding because, like I showed before, the funding eventually ends, and then there's nothing, right? You can imagine, us ushering our startups onto this bridge and saying like, go over this, and then like all of them falling down because there's nothing, because the bridge does not connect to the other side. And so it essentially would make the effort a little bit pointless if you only take them so far. So then there's the translational funding. We have some competitions. We have our own accelerator, some other forms of non-dilutive funding, licensing with ease, some investment opportunities, because we're also unfortunately located in an area of where venture capital is not readily available for companies, for our startups. They often have to travel to the West Coast or the East Coast, in the case of pharmaceuticals, to Boston. Now the company partnership, right, also needs translational funding. Sometimes, that it ends up being, there ends up being sponsored research if there's a product market fit potential. So this is what we show our customers, our researchers are our customers. And this is what it actually is, the details. So this is the bridge that we had, you can imagine the little tiles of a bridge connecting one end of the valley to the other. And these are essentially the tiles that our our inventor can walk through. And obviously there's the invention, intellectual property. The other thing is we involve our mentors very, very early on, and they provide feedback. We have, in fact, entrepreneurs in residence that are, some of them are paid, some of them are unpaid, but they can offer very early stage feedback for the for the researcher. And we have I-Core programming. We're an I-Core hub. I-Core programming from Starting Blocks, which is a 3-week course with 10 customer interviews, where we encourage researchers to go out of the lab and talk to people that actually have the problem rather than Googling. So in a sense, doing the, approaching the product market fit like a scientist would, by doing research and drawing conclusions from what you learn. And the program intensifies all the way to, 30 customer interviews and 100 customer interviews. And then they can go through our Ascent Deep Tech Accelerator. Then licensing with ease, which is, when they're expecting to really launch the company. Sometimes they launch the company, or sometimes these things here, right? So the non-dilutive funding and the launch of the company happen simultaneously. But licensing with ease is essentially an express license, where we had vetted our terms with VCs that invest in university spinoffs. So that way it really cuts back on the resources for both sides. Both sides can focus on more important things than haggling over, 0.5% of a royalty, because we're already offering them the best possible deal. Lab Venture Challenge is a proof of concept funding that they can get. It comes also with funding for incorporation, attorney fees, trade shows, market research, intellectual property, things like that. New Venture Challenge is a campus-wide competition. Center for Translational Research will help them write SBIR grants, which are really geared for, or they're set up for small businesses to also fund that early stage research where the regular university grant ends and before the industry picks it up. And, there are various other things. Now, investment is where I said we have a big gap here. Destination Startup is a conference that we organize for all the institutions from Colorado and also from neighboring states, including Arizona, actually, where startups can compete for a spot in this final showcase. And by doing this, we're attracting venture capitalists to actually travel here and see them and talk to them, because they know that only the best startups from our region will be showcased at the conference, and that has actually become quite big and successful. So those are the resources, and I just wanted to. How much time do I have? I still have some time. I wanted to leave some time also for questions for you. So to show you that this is actually working, right? we have, by the way, all sorts of other resources always brewing, and we're also, always developing new resources. But what we've done so far, I think, has resulted in some positive metrics. So we won the APLU Innovation Award in 2021. Our startups raised $2.1 billion in 1 year. Just to put that in context, and not all of our startups are in Colorado, but to put it in context, all startups in Colorado raised $4 billion, right? So it's a lot. So clearly they're being set up for success in one way or another. We have 44 startups in the last 3 years. Again, to put it in context, this is 3 times our traditional baseline. So we had, I think our biggest year was 20 startups. And our baseline was 5 to 6 each year. Right now, we're averaging, you can see what we're averaging in each year, but it has definitely encouraged researchers, inventors that originally did not think this was possible to actually take that step and start a company. And it is not, something that you can't expect an inventor, a scientist, to always make that leap and switch from being a university scientist and then suddenly become a CEO of a successful company. So that's why we have the mentor network, and we match the inventors with potential business drivers who actually do develop that, help them develop that business model and launch the company. Then when we also had 300% increase in licenses, and this was from the decentralization, since the decentralization of the technology transfer office, so about 5 years ago. That's how much we've grown our deals. So I want to leave you with the most important thing that we teach our researchers is really you have to go and find out what the market needs, what the industry needs, what the customer needs, right? Because research at university, while always innovative in nature, is not always solving a real problem, right? So I would say 99% of the time, what we're dealing with is we receive a solution that is looking for a problem, or a solution to a problem that somebody in the government grant thought was real, or that the researcher thought was real, without actually doing the investigation. And I love this. I love this graphic because it tells it all, right? What if our customers aren't actually looking for this? And this is so true. And this is actually why startups fail. most of the time, right? So this is the top number one reason why startups fail is because they make something that nobody wants. And that's the number one most important thing that we try to teach our customers. Also, who are all our customers, is that really the business, how you develop the business model. It really has changed, right? It has changed from the time that I started my company, which is where you're expected to have a thick book business plan that you're going to follow for the next 5 years without any changes. And that's different. Right now, you look at the business model canvas. It looks simple, but it's not, right? But it's informed. This is your informed business model. And answering all of these questions, and most importantly, the value proposition in the center is going to tell you if you have a scalable or profitable business model. So that's all I have for you today. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I think I still have a couple minutes to answer questions that you might have right now.
Thank you very much, Marta. That was extremely useful. Some of them also very new and emerging to all of us, but I think we can relate to the issue of the Death Valley and lack of resources, particularly in Albania. This is challenging with very limited funds, public funds from the government for research and innovation, research and development at university level, but also for, let's say, low awareness on the side of the business and private companies on how they can solicit, let's say, solutions from the research. So in our context, there is also an issue of trust between these two actors. And the model that you presented, I think we might want to pick your brain for each and every one of its aspect, but unless there is an emergent, very urgent question at this point, otherwise we can go on with Paul and Anita, and then we'll leave time for the discussions and questions at the very end. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Marta, again. That was very helpful. And of course, we would kindly ask you to share the presentations with us as well later on.
I will do that.
Good. So now I would like to invite Paul from the Forge unit of the University of Arizona with his presentation on the student venture pathways. Thank you, Paul. The floor is yours. We can already see your screen. You just need to unmute yourself and.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. And you can see my main screen, not my display screen. Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much. And thank you for having me join you. I've enjoyed the presentation so far, and I'm learning a lot as well. So appreciate being part of this. As was mentioned, my name is Paul Valdez. I am the program manager for Student Venture Pathways as part of Arizona Forge. Forge stands for Finding Opportunities and Resources to Grow Entrepreneurs. So it's a clever acronym that we can use. It also has a great reference to forging something and building something. And so that's part of the reason why we chose that name. So I spend a lot of my time working with students and helping them develop an entrepreneurial mindset, and also working with them on venture development. I will share a little bit more about our overall structure as Forge, because there are some other elements that we work with, but most of my presentation will definitely be focused on the student activities that we're working on. So to share a little bit about how we're structured, we have 3 different pillars. As I mentioned, we have student venture pathways. And so broadly, what we're trying to accomplish there is we want to help students identify with and connect with the entrepreneurial mindset A lot of students already have been entrepreneurial prior to coming to the university, so we help them mine their past and understand what those past entrepreneurial experiences are. But we also want to help them understand how they can further develop their entrepreneurial mindset. We're really focusing in on this mindset development as opposed to venture development more specifically. If students do want to develop a venture, then we have mentors and we have people that we can connect them with and resources that we can work with them to help them do that. But our main goal is that we want them to really build that mindset. And then, whether they are, graduating and they start a startup after college, or they go and work for an existing organization or company and they innovate within that company, then they have the skills and the mindset to be able to do that well. And also a lot of what we're trying to do is we're trying to help students see themselves as entrepreneurs. I think oftentimes the word entrepreneur can kind of create this image that you have to be a business student or you have to have some kind of interest in business. But we want artists to see themselves as entrepreneurs. We want teachers to see themselves as entrepreneurs because there's lots of ideas and lots of solutions out there that are not discipline specific. And so we are intentionally placed within the division of innovation or of research, innovation, and impact so that we can be college agnostic. So that's the student venture pathways, and I'll speak a little bit more about some of our programs and activities there. Forge Community is really an opportunity for us to bring the community together and to bridge campus and community. And so we look at it as an entrepreneurial ecosystem hub where we can kind of bring together people, convene folks, have conversations and summits and those types of things. We do have a very large building downtown, which is called our Roy Place building. And this was intentionally located in downtown Tucson so that it was more accessible to the community. But it serves as a physical location where we can have those events and we can have those convenings to bring the ecosystem together. And another area of the Forge community work is really around upskilling. So trying to work with local corporations, local small businesses, and the community at large to identify what are the skills needed for the workforce of the 21st century. And if we can provide training in that area or we can, help leverage resources in that area, then we want to do that. That's still relatively new in terms of what we're building there, but something that's on the horizon for us. And then our Forge Ahead pillar is really more of supporting teams or startup teams. These could be student startup teams, these are community startup teams, or these could even be faculty startup teams. These are groups that have gone through other services or resources either on our campus or in our community, and maybe they need a little bit of continued support to kind of get to that next level. So they may be applying for our University of Arizona Center for Innovation incubator, but maybe they're not exactly ready for that, and so we can kind of provide them with some mentorship and some coaching to help prepare them for that, and help them have a successful application for that, or potentially competitions that they're applying for, or other funding that they may be applying for. So those are the three main areas that we focus in on. But again, I'm going to focus on the student venture pathways primarily in this presentation. In terms of our history, we are relatively new at the University of Arizona. There's a longstanding history with the UA Center for Innovation, as well as Tech Launch Arizona, which is our commercialization arm at the university. But Arizona Forge, we were created in 2019. And really the idea, the concept, the rallying support happened in 2019. We were also renovating our building down at Roy Place in 2019 and getting all of those physical pieces in place in that year. We had our grand opening scheduled for March of 2020. I believe it was March 18th or 19th. So we all know what happened at that time, and it was very difficult to kind of open a brand new building right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so from 2020 to 2021, 2022, we had been operating in very much a virtual space and trying to do program development in a virtual space and try and meet students and community members and faculty and staff in that virtual space. In 2021, I joined the team as the first program manager for Student Venture Pathways. And so I developed out a lot of different programs and kind of direction for what we wanted to see student venture pathways develop into. 2022, we've added folks to our team. So we've added a marketing and communications person. We've added a few other coordinators for my area. We also have a building manager that we added, an events coordinator. So we've definitely grown our team quite a bit in 2022. And then for the future, we're looking to continue to scale our program so that we can connect with as many people as possible. When talking, and preparing for this presentation, Arita had indicated that it would be helpful to kind of see an organization chart, right, and see how we're organized. So as I mentioned before, we exist in the Division of Research, Innovation, and Impact. So that's a vice president that reports directly to our president. And so our founding director reports to Betsy Cantwell, who is that vice president. And then our founding director, he oversees all these full-time staff members that are listed there. So the marketing and communications manager, who oversees all of our social media, all of our communication, all of our press releases, everything to do with that kind of communication. They have a student leader, which is a student venture pathway fellow that is reports to them. And then we have a volunteer program called Forge Ambassadors, which is student entrepreneurs that utilize their experience as entrepreneurs to kind of share their story and tell the story of Forge. We have an administrative assistant and Roy Place building manager, which we're currently hiring for. And so this person will oversee the physical location downtown, but then will also be helping us manage our purchasing and managing some of those day-to-day tasks that are needed as we continue to grow our team. Forge Ahead, which is the pre-accelerator that I mentioned, is overseen by our founding director. And so he works with our team of mentors and residents to support those resident teams that are going through that. The Forge Communities Program Coordinator is the one that is putting together the upskilling training and the other community kind of activities and events, and oversees some student assistants as well as our events manager. I mentioned that we have 8 mentors and residents. And so these mentors and residents are available for mentoring with either the resident teams that are going through Forge Ahead, or they can be available for our students. They actually have office hours on campus in some of our different campus locations to be able to interface with students and share their expertise, either their specific industry expertise or more generally just what it's like to create a startup. I should mention that the mentors and residents are not full-time, they are part-time staff. They do get paid, but their payment is primarily for special projects that they're working on. So they've helped us to build out courses, they've helped us to build out other activities and events, but their mentoring time is considered volunteer time. And then you can see in my area, the Forge Student Venture Pathways, I oversee a coordinator for entrepreneurial mindset development, and then a coordinator for venture development education. We decided to organize ourselves that way because we wanted to be able to cast the net as widely as possible with the entrepreneurial mindset development and try and help students see the value in developing that entrepreneurial mindset. And then, so that's kind of considered like the top of the funnel. And then if they do decide that they want to explore an idea and, for a new organization or a new company, then we would have the support person, our venture development education coordinator, to be able to interact with them, understand what their unique needs are, and get them connected to resources. You'll also see we have a team of SVPA assistants. These are undergraduate student leaders that work for us. They're the ones that are helping to staff our office hours. They do consultations with their peers. They help us organize events and activities. And then, they're doing a variety of other tasks as well to assist us with our programs and events. I guess just some other context to share with you. As I mentioned, we're in research, innovation, and impact. But in terms of our support does come from the University of Arizona. And so we do get funds directly through the division to support our work. However, the Student Venture Pathways portion of our work is primarily supported through the Arizona Board of Regents It's the TRIF funds, which is Technology Research Innovation Funds. So this is a pool of money at the state level that is really focused on workforce development around technology and research innovation. And so that's primarily how our Student Venture Pathways programs are funded and supported. We've also been cultivating donors to be able to connect them to different programs or connect them to our center broadly. And then we have received some grants through the EDA, and then we go after other grants such as NSF grants or other innovation related grants. As I mentioned before, we do not operate in a vacuum, right? We are one of many different areas on campus that supports innovation and supports entrepreneurship. So Tech Launch Arizona is our commercialization arm. So similar to what Marta had presented on, that they really focus in on working with our faculty and helping licensing and developing their research into either startups or commercialization. Our University of Arizona Center for Innovation. So Anita will talk a little bit more about that, but they have a long history and success track record of working with startups and getting them launched and getting them funded. We also have a great community partner in Startup Tucson. They reside in our building downtown, and they do a lot of community work. They also go in with us on a variety of different grants and activities. Of course, we're working with colleges and departments across campus to be able to offer our services and help them develop out their innovation and entrepreneurship goals. We do have a well-established College of Management of our Eller College of Management, and they actually have the academic entrepreneurship major and minor, and they have the McGuire Center for Entrepreneurship. So we work with them quite a bit, and we see ourselves as somewhat of a feeder because we're working with undergraduate students primarily and looking at incoming students as well as first-year students, second-year students, getting them to get excited and curious about solving problems, and then we can kind of guide them onto additional resources later on in their academic career, where they can go to the academic major or the minor, or they could go through the new venture development program, which McGuire hosts. We're also working a lot with student affairs, such as our residence life and Greek students, and then also the career development office on campus to be able to emphasize, the value of the entrepreneurial mindset and, engaging students in those places where they're at. This is the building that I've mentioned. So this is our building downtown. It's a 26,000 square foot building. It's 2 levels. It's literally in the heart of downtown. We are right across from the main library downtown and not too far from the courthouse. So it's very easy access for anyone that works downtown, whether that's government or corporate or small business. And that was intentional so that we would be able to welcome the community in. And also we leased the building from the county. And so part of their goals of having the university partnership was for us to be able to activate the building and to get more people in there, because before it had been kind of not as active or not as vibrant. So you can see there we've got quite a bit of event space that's available. We have a maker's lab or a launch lab where there's 3D printers, laser engravers, the typical maker space kind of materials. We have boardrooms and small meeting rooms where our startup companies or startups can kind of bring together their board. They can bring together funders. They can have brainstorming meetings. And then we also have a few classrooms that are down there. So one classroom can hold, I believe it's 120 students. And then another classroom can hold up to 35 students. So we're encouraging faculty to bring their classes downtown and make it a place where they can connect with community by utilizing our building. We also have locations elsewhere. These locations are through partnerships with various different academic partners on campus. So Resilience Forge is with our academic partner, Arizona Institute for Resilience, Resilient Environments and Societies. And so we're trying to attract students there that want to develop solutions for sustainability and develop solutions for a resilient world. STEAM Forge is located in our electrical and computer engineering building, but it's also very close to our arts district, as well as our honors college, our business college, and the engineering buildings. So it's a great location for us to be able to engage students that are in STEAM fields. And then we're working to get Consumer Forge in place. This will probably happen in the next year, but working with students that are focused on retail, focused on consumer, and basically having a presence in their main building, which is McClellan Park on the first floor. We also have mentors and residents that are placed in Phoenix and Yuma. And so in Phoenix, our focus is really working in partnership with the other universities up there, as well as our mentors and residents around the biomedical focus. And then Yuma is more agricultural focused as an extension campus. And so we have a mentor and residence placed there as well that's providing events and mentoring for individuals at that campus. So when I talk about entrepreneurial mindset, we're utilizing the definition from NIFTY, which is the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And so these are the 8 different domains that they've identified around the entrepreneurial mindset. It's not to say that this is the only definition or this is the best definition. It's just what we've landed on at this moment in time. It helps us to communicate, these are the types of skills and dispositions that we want students to develop to be successful in innovation and entrepreneurship. So some of the programs and activities that we created the Venturing 101 mini courses. As I mentioned, much of our early years were very virtual because of the pandemic. And so this was one of the programs we developed. And it's an online asynchronous set of courses that kind of help students understand the startup process. It is free to the students. It is not credit bearing, but they do get a digital badge if they complete the course. We have worked with faculty to have them embed the courses within their existing courses to supplement whatever they're teaching in their courses, and that's worked really well for us. I guess the other thing that I should mention with the Venturing 101 is that we have a commitment to the community at large as well. And so these are available for free for the community to take as well. And so they just have to register through a simple process, and then they get access to the courses, and we get to connect with them and see what they're working on. We also do events that are geared at trying to meet students where they're at. So we have a partner with the Singleton Foundation for Financial Literacy and Entrepreneurship. They have this amazing game called Venture Valley, and it's meant to teach people the basics of entrepreneurship and financial literacy. And so it's in a mobile app format. And so we hosted a gaming tournament down at our Roy Place building. We had over 150 students that registered for the game. And then as you can see, there were some pretty large cash prizes that were awarded by the Singleton Foundation to the top scorers of that particular event. For that event, we also had student founders that were there kind of showcasing their ventures, and it gave them an opportunity to get a little bit more interaction on prototypes, or get more visibility around their venture. We also had students taking the Entrepreneurial Mindset Index at this event too, to kind of understand and learn more about where they feel that they're at with their entrepreneurial mindset. So it was a fun event as well as educational. We also have events on Thursdays, which is really geared at trying to help us convene people, as well as develop community, whether that's community for students or broader community. But our Thursdays at Forge events feature, various different programs, whether that's a campus spotlight, a curiosity club kind of event, a Forge fireside, where we talk to an entrepreneur and interview them, all around like a low-key, informal kind of coffee setting. This week, we're doing programs for Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so we have a variety of different events that students can connect with us on campus. And you can see those different events that are taking place throughout the week. We're also working on an idea weekend. So having students come to the table And this is a partnership with our Arizona Institute for Resilient Environments and Societies. And so students are given the challenge of like identifying a problem within sustainability within the environment and starting the ideation process. And so we hope that this kickstarts their curiosity for problem solving more broadly. But then, we can support them in developing those ventures further if that's something that they want to do. Last couple of slides. I know I'm running out of time. Sorry about that. Today, we're hosting our Southern Arizona Economic Impact Summit. This is just an example of a way that we're kind of pulling the community together around topics that are relevant to entrepreneurship, but then also economic development more broadly. And you can see, the various folks that will be attending that later today. These are just some of our student founders, and we kind of run the gamut from small businesses that we're supporting all the way up to, you can see Jasa and Christina, they're developing an antibiotic treatment for Alzheimer's disease, right? So, we're trying to support the students where they're at and what kind of business or organization that they're trying to found. But Spencer and Will, very interesting brothers that are really passionate about mycology, and so their business really developed out of that passion. Jasa and Christina, their focus really developed out of their academic background, and they saw that there's a great opportunity, and they have some amazing faculty advisors that are working with them to develop out that treatment. As Marta had mentioned, with students, if they are the initiators of the intellectual property, then they own the intellectual property. The university does not own the intellectual property. But if they are working as part of a research team, as part of a faculty member's research team, then that's where it gets a little bit different in terms of who owns the intellectual property. But for these two examples, both these groups of students own their intellectual property, and they're the ones that are advancing the development of their businesses. And if you all wanted to stay in touch, feel free to join our newsletter by scanning the QR code. You can see some of the other events and opportunities that are coming up. And I'm happy to answer any questions later or now, or answer questions after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. This is extremely helpful. I guess also for the students that have joined us today to be more demanding to their universities and the services that they should provide to students. Unfortunately, we are not yet at the point of where you are and what you presented, but we are trying to pilot some of the things, and we want to strengthen them further. So this is particularly helpful. We started at UCIA with engaging students with lecturers and researchers on providing concrete solutions to policy challenges, but also engaging them in teams with researchers to work with business as well. And one of the lessons learned, at least for us, is mentoring. So I saw that mentoring program and was a big part of the work that you are doing. I would like now to give the floor to Anita Bell, the director of the UAA Center for Innovation. And after her presentation, we can have questions and open discussions. Anita, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, if I find all the buttons, then I'll be happy to present. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see the screen and hear you very well.
The proper screen, okay, fantastic. Well, it's a hard act to follow all those presenters, so hopefully, I have something to add, and I think you'll see a theme here of some of the things that, are in the US very popular. So I will pile on a little bit of what was said before, but I definitely want to focus on the University of Arizona Center for Innovation, which is an organization that I've been with since its beginning. We started in 2003, and Erida had told me a little bit about this. So what I thought I will do is I'll go briefly through a little bit of how our university operates in regards to tech transfer, how the tech parks where we're located, and it's a picture behind me also, operates, and then into how the Center for Innovation does. But I also am going to present a bit of a timeline of how it all evolved, because as I understand, you are in the beginning of exploring and understanding and figuring out how to do this. So I thought if I give a little bit of a snapshot of time, that might be interesting. About me, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 20 years. You may notice my accent. So I grew up in Germany and I came to the US about 30 or so, maybe, I don't know, 25 years ago. And I found this place to be, and it's very exciting for me because I have a bit of a technical background, but I had always been interested in business. So this is working in an incubator with startup companies has been really an amazing opportunity for me. A little bit about the University of Arizona. Similar like Colorado University, it's a research organization. There is, of course, intellectual property developed. And here's just a little bit statistics about it. We do have about 40,000 students, I believe, this year. And there's definitely some areas of focus that you will see later highlighted, and also how we operate and how we have our companies. This talks a little bit about our students, not just at the University of Arizona, but we also have a fantastic community college that have about 5,000 students graduate every year. And then the Tucson area has a bunch of different options and ecosystem. And that's what I liked about Marta when she said, you know, what happens when you transfer technology out? You know, there should be an ecosystem to catch those. Oh, wow. And this is animated. I did not know it was animated. So here we go. There's the innovation system. Ecosystem, and I'm not going too much into that because Marta covered that already. Did you have a question, Glenn Sherry? Yeah? No? Okay.
Working on the
Oh, okay. Alrighty, I just saw a hand raise up. So as Marta already mentioned, you know, there's really an ecosystem that benefits from the university, and the university benefits from the ecosystem. And so this is laid out a little bit, and it's all in the realm of economic development. So that's part of why we're doing what we are doing, and why the university puts efforts and resources into that. And of course, Paul mentioned it a little bit, you know, they're solely funded by the university, and I'll go into a little bit of how we're funded. So this is really, as Marta mentioned, in the US, if intellectual property is developed by researchers or by funds from the university owns that research, intellectual property, and then there's a licensing process. So it'll be interesting in our discussion to see how that differs in Albania or Europe, or how it might be similar. So of course, the benefits of that is job creation. You know, the students, they become employees, the startups, they spin out, they generate revenue. And then, of course, there's also the research and development, which the University of Arizona is a land grant university. So it's actually older than the state of Arizona. And it's always had the mission to transfer technology or knowledge out of the university for the benefit of the population. So just in case you don't know where Arizona is, that's a map of the US. And there's a big old arrow pointing to Arizona. And Colorado is the state just up on the, so they're touching on the corner. So you can see that Colorado and Arizona both are kind of in the middle of the country. So you often hear about the West Coast and the East Coast and the funding opportunities that are there. That's not really the case for us. So we have to be a little bit more creative about those kinds of things. So then this is the structure. The University of Arizona Center for Innovation, it's a separate legal entity from the university. And it really sits within the tech parks of the University of Arizona. The tech parks is also has a separate legal entity in order to negotiate lease agreements and whatnot with the tenants. And there's a second location being built right now. So the one you see behind me is the original location. It's 1,300 acres. There's 2 million square feet under roof. And there are companies located that pay rents like IBM and Citibank and others like that. The other location is this one is a bit 20 minutes away from the main campus. And the other location is just about between the main campus of the university and this tech park. And it's about 65 acres. And there's one building up right now, which is super exciting, the refinery. It took a recession and a downturn and a pandemic delayed everything. So it took a while to build this building. But you can see that the Center for Innovation is kind of in the middle of that. And our vice president for the Tech Parks Arizona views the incubator really as the heartbeat for the tech parks. So it is about economic development, which is why, you know, this whole effort is taking place from tech transfer to the startups to building companies. So just a brief snapshot of the Tech Parks Arizona. Those numbers, I believe, are from last year. So, 2017, this is really old. It's the pandemic did impact it a little bit, but I think it's very similar to what it was before that now. So it is about a $2 billion economic impact that this operation has on the economy. So then focusing in on the Center for Innovation, our mission is really to fuel the Southern Arizona innovation system. And the way we do this is by supporting startup companies. So we only work with companies, not with individuals, which is very different than what Paul does, because they work with students and, you know, individuals. When we work with them, they need to form a legal entity to be a company. And also they need to have focus on science and or technology. So the way I describe it often is if somebody has a food truck that they want to operate, nothing wrong with it, just not something that is our focus area. So we would send them to other resources in town. But if they have technology to help all food trucks and have a scalable business out of that, then we more than welcome them and utilize our resources to support them. So a little bit how we view the Center for Innovation. It is a connector between the university, between tech parks, and the greater Tucson and beyond. And I'll go a little bit more into that, how we developed even a global footprint at this time. And you do hear us talk a lot about the technology transfer. So our entity is called Tech Launch Arizona, and it's a very similar entity than what Marta talked about. They also have an ICO program, and I think that might be a good opportunity to discuss later what that is and what it does. And again, they deal with all the licensing process. So it goes from invention to disclosure to patenting to, you know, licensing. Once a company licenses technology from the university, and it could be the faculty founder, then we can work with them. So we don't get involved from our part in the whole licensing arena. We wait, we talk to them, you know, we send them back to Tech Launch Arizona, make sure everything is signed. Once it's signed, then we can work with them. Because again, we work with companies, not with research projects or any of that. So I did this presentation a while ago because somebody wanted to know, you know, how did you come to be and what's the history? So I grew up in Germany, so I'm like, you know, it takes a village to raise a company. I think it has a European meaning. In the US, it's a little bit different, you know, there's no villages, there's towns, but I hope that makes sense to you. So before 1990, there was not much. It was very typical traditional economic development. There was the county and a chamber of commerce and a small business development center. So there was just a few entities that really cared about entrepreneurship, innovation, and those kinds of things. Paul had also mentioned the McGuire Center for Entrepreneurship. That's been a unit at the University of Arizona that was developed in the 90s, and it's been ranking in the top 5 programs of the nation ever since. So it is a really good program. And again, this is focused on traditional academic education for students. And then some of the students go on to start their own companies after that, but a lot of them don't. And that's, just because it is an academic entity. So then from 91 to 2000, that's really when things started happening in the Tucson ecosystem. That's when the tech parks was started. So the tech parks is about 25 years now. And it was the Arizona, at that time, IBM had built this property and they were leaving Tucson. They decided to get out of that business that they had here. And at that point, it was kind of popular for universities in the US to have research parks. So the Arizona Board of Regents saw this opportunity to purchase this land and develop a research park at this property. So this is how the tech park came to be. And its mission had been to be a research park, a university research park, to help facilitate with the tech transfer. At the same time, the Desert Angels started. That is a group, it's an angel investor group. So they were founded in 2001. And also Idea Funding started, which is a pitch competition, workshops. It's a one-day event at that time that really supports entrepreneurship in the ecosystem and invites people from all the different entities from the university, from the community, to come together for one day and meet each other and whatnot. Then so that was before 2000. So after 2000, so the next decade is when the Arizona Center for Innovation started. We started actually 2003. The Sun Corridor is now called something else. No, it is called, I'm sorry, I think it is called Sun Corridor. I'll just say it is because they're not here, which is the economic development opportunity for the region. So it's not just the city, it's not just the county, it's really a regional opportunities. Their focus is bringing companies here, supporting the companies that are here, and those types of things. And then a whole bunch of other companies and organizations evolved. And it's a little hard to see, but most of the ones that started before still existed. So at this time, it started to be a much bigger ecosystem to support startups wherever they are. At that, and as I mentioned, the Center for Innovation started in 2003, so we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary next year. And we started out with just 2 companies, one part-time director and one full-time admin assistant. And very quickly, we started to be involved with the INBIA, which is the International Business Innovation Association. It's a trade organization for incubators and accelerators, co-working spaces, those types of things, really supporting startups. But what it was helpful for us, it supported the practitioners, it supported the people that were building incubators and accelerators to know what the best practices are, to see industry trends, and really, if there was any questions that could get started. At that point, our program was just a bunch of workshop series. And at that time, the University of Arizona still had the Office of Technology Transfer, which is a popular name for that organization. Then I did break it down into 2006 to 2010, just because we added additional space. We did have a full-time director at that time, and the admin turned into program manager. At that point, also, the program got a little bit more formalized. We did do cohort style programming. We had mentors and we had student interns. And at that time, also because of the need, we added laboratory space for the companies. In that first decade, in the first 7 years, there was 53 startups that started that were in the programs of the incubator. And you kind of see it's going up and down like that. Just, it's a very small scale. So it is going up and down, just depending on what the resources are and what the community was doing. So then the next 5 years, 2011 to 2015, was really a pivotal moment because we did get additional accelerator spaces and co-working spaces. That really was the time when that was becoming very popular. That was the time when Y Combinator and Techstars started. I'm sure you're familiar with those organizations. And in our small Tucson community, it reflected that. Also in Phoenix, some of those were up there. The collaborations became more, and we also saw a couple of more venture capital infusions. So the UI Venture Capital Fund was started. That's a fund that is focusing on University of Arizona derived spin-out companies. So that has been a real great catalyst to get that going. Idea funding became part of 10 West, which is a week-long impact festival, and that is still going on. So it really all expanded, and there was much more collaboration between all of the different entities as well. For the Center for Innovation, what that meant, we added an entrepreneur in residence or mentor in residence. We also developed our community mentor program, and we added a list of service providers that were willing and able to work with startups, really so that companies had more options and resources. We did change our programs to a mentored launch program. Success starts here. We also increased the intern opportunities. We did get some money to add a prototyping center. So we got a 3D printer and those types of things. Also during that year, we were able to get some more equipment for our wet labs. So we have laboratories for bio and chemistry based companies. Really had a lot of engagement with the Arizona Commerce Authority and the Flint Foundation, who are funders of startup companies. And in 2012, so this year's the 10th anniversary, the Tech Launch Arizona formed. So that was formerly the Office of Tech Transfer. And I think it was similar to what Marta said. It went through this evolution of, you know, what is the Tech Transfer Office's role and how can we emphasize that? So at that time, they started to give more funding to researchers to go from the idea to the benchtop to a small prototype. There is resources through interns. They also have a venture development entity where they have mentors in residence to work. Each of the mentors has a workload of those startups that are in the pipeline. And at that point, we did get a little bit more money from the incubator itself, got a little bit money from grants through Wells Fargo and the Small Business Administration. So you can see our clientele was still, you know, in the couple dozens, and we increased the connections of the companies that came out of the university directly, because we also support companies that don't have a connection to the university. And I think that's when we changed our name too. So we went from Center for Innovation to the University of Arizona Center for Innovation. So that was a big deal for us, really. Because before there was maybe not so much buy-in from the university's leadership. It was more, you know, one president liked it, the next one didn't so much and all that. But as you can, as you heard from Paul, now there's really buy-in in tech transfer and commercialization. So we actually also report to the Research Innovation Impact Vice President that Paul mentioned. So then the next 5 years, this is kind of where, you know, we all know what happened in 2020. So right before that, it just kind of bloomed up. Everything is happening in Tucson. There's more money, more companies, more support, more everything. And it is, there's actually, you know, I just look at it, there's Arizona Forge. So you can see that one there. And it really, showed how the ecosystem really blew up in a good way. At that time, there were 74 support organizations for startups. So this is a little breakdown on how this broke down, but it's really to showcase, it went from a handful in the 90s to really, almost 100 support organizations to support these entrepreneurs and small businesses. Now, today in 2022, the University of Arizona has over 75 companies in the program. We have a contract with the Department of Energy. We just co-hosted the Invest Festival, the Impact Festival, and we have 11 people working on the team. So we went from the 1.5 back in 2003 to now 11 people. And that is an executive director, Eric Smith. My role is director. We have an assistant director. We have a program manager. We have 2 part-time mentors in residence, and we have 4 subject matter experts. And then our next step is to, again, increase our volunteer mentor network. Our companies over those last almost 20 years have raised over $100 million in outside funding. A lot of that is through grants. We have the SBIR grant funding, that is the Small Business Innovation Research Program that is funded by the federal government. And I don't know if you have anything like that in Albania. I know, not. So each of the agencies, federal agencies, and an agency would be like the Department of Defense, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy. I think they're called ministries in Europe. From their budget, they have to set aside 1 or 1.5% of their funding, their budget, to fund this program. So it adds up to billions of dollars every year, and it is only available for innovative startup companies. It is a phased program. It's very competitive, but it can fund a startup company for about 3 years to really go from the early prototype benchtop to a commercial product. And again, it has to be innovative. We are now in 6 locations, so we're still here at the original tech park. We built during the pandemic and started operating a biotech incubator that was really a concentrated effort between the community. It's part of Tucson, but it's Oro Valley, it's its own township, and the county. And there's a company, there's a couple of companies there, Sanofi, who's since left, but Roche, I think you're familiar with that. They're out of Switzerland. They purchased one of the companies here, so they have a large presence, and everybody pooled the money together, pledged some resources, so we were able to build a 4,000 square feet biotech incubator that supports, it has enough space for 4 companies to be physically located there. Our 75 companies are not all in Tucson, so we have this program, and I'll talk a little bit more about the program now. So we also developed the program roadmap. So everything we do, how we support our companies, is based on this. There's 26 topics there. They range from forming a company, a legal entity, to marketing collateral, to protecting your IP, to market assessment. So it's not any specific order, but it's really a great checklist for the companies to see what should they be working on. And it's also a great tool for us to assess where they are, because we do want to meet them where they are. So we have them take this assessment when they first start with us. And then this is really the roadmap for them and their mentor to figure out, which of the topics and areas they should focus on next, and to achieve the goal of commercialization. I mentioned we have various locations. So top here is the refinery. That's our newest building from the tech park. Super excited about that one, because like I said, it was like 20 years in the making. And then down here, this is our Oro Valley location. This is another view of the tech park where we're sitting. And then also, I don't know if you've heard of the Biosphere 2. When I came to the US, that was one of the things where I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's north of Tucson, I must visit it. So I had been there several times, and the University of Arizona took over operation of that I think about 10 years ago or so. So now we have also companies that are utilizing that space for their growth and demonstration models, but then we provide the business development mentoring for them. And down below, up here is this picture was made like in November 2019, of course, not in 2020. So we had put this gigantic table in there, and it was really fun. And then down here is a picture of our laboratories. So it's a shared lab, but it is fully equipped and can handle biosafety level 2 bio things. And we have a lab manager making sure that everybody's safe in there. We do have a global outreach program, and the Tech Park had done this for many years, where they would do trade missions overseas in other countries. And then we started to flip around this program, this model about 4 or 5 years ago, and we've been inviting companies to come to us. And I actually saw Andrew here on the screen. So here's an example of a Canadian company that is exploring the US as a market entry, and we're providing support for them. So the initial 4 weeks they come, we get them introduced to everybody, have them be connected and really know whom they can go to. And now Andrew, actually, he liked it so much, he said, I'm not going back to Canada, it's cold up there. So he's still here and is in the program. So he's the business development person for the company. Headquarters are still in Canada, but he's exploring the US as an opportunity for business development. And we've worked with companies in Costa Rica and Colombia. We've done paid programs through, one was actually Colombia was paid by the country. Costa Rica was also paid by the country of Costa Rica. And then we have even some international companies in our regular program now, because with the pandemic, all of a sudden virtual is a thing. So we can do all of our work virtually right now in regards to the business development support. And then, you know, if they're local, they can utilize the facilities. And we've even had companies move here within the States or from other places, and then utilize the facilities that we have. So here's a little bit of where they are, where they're from. So we're almost on all the continents. I told Eric we need somebody in the blue, so we'll be working on that one. And then I'd mentioned the industry areas earlier of the university, and I'm probably way over, apologize. But whatever the university's focus areas is often reflected in the community. So those are the areas that we are looking at. And Paul, this is a little preview for you for this afternoon, because we'll be participating in that impact analysis. So you're getting a snap of what we've looked at. We did hire a impact study group, Rounds Consulting, and they've been working with us to really understand the impact. So they've come up with, just for 2021, that just our little incubator here in Little Tucson had an economic output of $35 million just in 1 year. So it's kind of neat to see how that all developed. So that's me, and I hope I didn't speak too long, but I'm super excited to maybe go in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Anita, for the presentation, focusing on the ecosystem, but also on the trajectory of success of your center. So a lot of lessons to be learned there. And just to put the things in context, the entire, let's say, public budget for education in Albania is nowhere near what you have managed to achieve in the past few years. So we are very, very small, but still in, let's say, our local context, we would like to implement as much as we can these models. Thank you again to Nevila, Marta, Paul, and Anita for the excellent presentations. And if you kindly share those with us, we will also share with the entire group and our researchers in the project and students as well. Now I'd like to open up for comments or questions. We have about 15 minutes left. So we planned around 20, but okay, I see Ariane hand is up. You can as well write on the chat meanwhile. Yes, Ariane, please.
Hello to everyone. Thank you for a great presentation we had. Quite music for my ears, since I'm working like long years now in such field, starting from entrepreneurship, as Paul was talking about Forge and startups, etc. that Anita and Marta was speaking about. Well, a lot of questions I was having pretty much was covered from each presenter, but coming to the pinpoint, if going back forward, all this roadmap, which especially was each of you would have been presented, was such a roadmap so clear from very beginning, or you probably you tried to invent during the way? So that's the first question.
Who is the question for?
Well,
General, anybody?
Well,
Anita,
you can take the lead.
I'll just take it. No, it was not clear. So,
Okay.
but you know, and what I say is our programs have changed also because the needs change. So there's learning on our behalf to learn what we're doing, and you know, again, Tucson has been not like, you know, this now it is, now talent comes and they may have experience from other places. So we learned, but also we are meeting the companies where they are. So we're, you know, looking at what do they need and how can we support that. But really from the beginning, the trade organization I mentioned is the INBIA, the International Business Innovation Association, has been a great tool for us because they have industry studies. And I promised Irida I mentioned another organization, it's called AUTM, AUTM, I'll put that in the chat. And it's the Association of University Tech Transfer Managers. So that's a global organization. If you don't know them, I would recommend to look at it, because all they do is look at tech transfer from universities.
Going to that idea, since that the sustainability, as the beginning, Davila was telling us about the current project is happening in our country. That's a big topic here, and you said that from the money, from where it's coming. So what's the business model to create such tech transfer offices? Because state money or grants, so there's something, but is there any way to make it sustainable? Because as mentioned, for example, from Paul as well, so you don't have put heavy weight on taking commissions based on ideas or commission the startups created, etc. So what's the best feasible way to make it sustainable?
Marta, maybe that's a question for you.
So I'm not sure that I understood the question, but you're wondering about funding for the operation? Is that?
How we can make it sustainable? So you put some commissions based on startups created there, on IPOs created. So,
So my office is not completely funded from the license revenue yet. Hopefully this is a yet. My office retains 25% of the revenue, license revenue, but the campus itself invests more money than we get back. If we got to keep all the earnings that we have, then yes, we would be self-sustainable, but we aren't. So the idea is that you're investing into the programs now, and you hope that in the future it will pay off. And I think we're already starting to see it. Our revenue is already growing. Our annual revenue is already growing, and we're doing more deals than we used to. But yes, in the beginning, it is a challenge to do this on the scale that we're doing it on, without an investment from the school. And so I get asked this a lot, so maybe I'm going to answer a different question also, but I get asked this question a lot. If you have very, very little money, what would you do? What would you pick? Which of these programs would you pick? And I say, you can do a lot with, we actually started this way, right? We didn't have all of these resources. We didn't say like, here's my plan for the new re-envisioned tech transfer offices. It took Bren many years of going, proving little things and getting, a little bit back and then proving a little things. And until we, our accelerator was just launched this year. But if I were to pick something, one, it would be the entrepreneur education. I think this is right, the mindset, like Paul was talking about, the mindset, whether it's for a student or for the researcher, and you can do that with little input. So we started out by doing starting blocks, which we hired a teacher that teaches this mini course, and we told him, here's $2,000. That's all we have. Here's $2,000. Can you teach a cohort of 15 teams? And he did, and it just started, building up because we started seeing results, and then we were able to get more funding to grow that program until we eventually applied to be an I-Corps hub, and we got the funding from the government, right? So that was one tiny little thing, tiny little investment that we made in order to, and it changed the perception of the office even, right? It changed the perception, and it was like a tiny little snowball that started rolling down, and in the end you have a huge snowman. And then the other thing was the Lab Venture Challenge. So we took very little funding that we had. Lab Venture Challenge is the proof of concept. We took the money and then we split it into even smaller pieces, and then we turned it into a competition. And we attracted viewers, we attracted public attention to it. We brought attention to it, and now it's it's a community event, the finals, and it's a competition. So I really creating a competition for proof of concept funding was the number 2 thing that I think was most important when you have very limited budget. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you, Marta, very much for the.
I have another comment on that one. So at the University of Arizona, because it is a land grant university, so it's a state university, there is an initiative, which of course, I don't know how that works in your countries, but it's a tax money. So it's the TRIF money that Paul mentioned, Tax Research Innovation Fund, I believe it's what it's called. So there's a 1% tax on sales tax that goes put into a bucket, and then the 3 state universities get money from that, and that is the main funder of our Office of Tech Transfer. But to Marta's point, what we did when the incubator first started, we did Innovation Day at the U of A. So it also, it's a small event, but it grew big, and we highlighted the researchers and students we wanted people to aspire to. So, and I saw this comment too, how do you get them engaged? So we created this event once a year, and we celebrated, this is innovation, this is what they did. So, I mentioned Ventana earlier. It was founded by a university researcher and was purchased by Roche for billions of dollars. So, this is the kind of success. And if you have a smaller success, that's okay. But you start celebrating so other people can see, oh, this is a possibility.
Cool. Thank you very much, my dear. So Marta, Anita, and Paul, very great presentation. Looking forward to talk to you later on offline as I'm interested or baby steps start working with you, or some ideas and picking ups. And of course, inviting Andrew and sharing his ideas and his experience on this global advantage, let's say, program you have. Probably we might think it as well for some of our startups. Start working with that idea. So his experience will be more than welcome. Thank you very much once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Erjan. Anyone else has a comment or a question or an idea or, I don't know, some experiences to share as well? Thank you, Brikena, also for the questions in the chat regarding the motivation and the upskilling as well. Also, I had a similar question about how do you engage researchers? We find some resistance regarding what their role is, like basic research and teaching, or working with the communities, working with the business or the policy actors. So there is some kind of tension, let's say, or dilemma of what their role is or what they are expected to do. And that also has to do, in our case, with a rewarding system and the career path that does not always acknowledge the value of this kind of work. And of course, we have very few patenting and licensing as well in at the university level. So it's for us, this is emerging now, but it's not. It's far from being consolidated. I would also invite Erida to share a few thoughts. She has been very helpful in organizing this. She knows the system in Albania very well, and she's getting to know the system there as well. So maybe a few thoughts to share with us. And we have in the chat a question from a student. So meanwhile, you can have a look at that. And Erida, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So it was not in the agenda, so I have not prepared my thoughts. I will be, as always, very easygoing in this case. I know that this meeting today wasn't easy for anybody here, for sure for you that they are from the other side of the ocean, that it's very late now for you. Thank you for being here. But thank you, Brianna, for making everything happen, because without your engine, without this meeting would be very hard for me. For sure, I was just lighting, but you make it true together with Nevila, that is the leader of this project. I'm so happy to be part of this UCA project, because I learned a lot, and this makes me as well to see it from the other eyes now that I am in America. But with very particularly thank you for Marta, that she was really ill during these days, Anita, that she was running to catch the meeting and because she was out of the city, and Paul, that he already showed you in the sheet, already in that slide, that he is now very engaged with this 1 week activity, and he accepted. So for me it was very easy, let's say, because three of them immediately embraced my invitation. They were very easygoing. They really give me the motivation to make this true. So thank you, Marta. Thank you, Paul and Anita. And by the way, Anita is my supervisor here in America, so you can understand where I'm going to learn more and more. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Erida. And we also have a comment in the chat from a student from Shkodra. So as I mentioned before, motivation, inspiring as well. So that's very good. I received the presentation from Marta and from Paul already. And once I receive from Anita, I will share with the entire group, which are partners of our projects. And I really hope that this will be the beginning of a conversation and dialogue that we might carry on in the future as well. If anyone else would like to add something, otherwise, yeah, I would like to thank you all. Yes, Anita, please.
Oh yeah, just for Marla, that's like a long discussion, but you know, just maybe start something small. I usually recommend don't quit your day job until you know where revenue comes in, because
it's a good pragmatic.
Yeah, sometimes it typically takes a lot longer. Even if you think it takes long, it takes twice as long, and it's 4 times as hard. But it's definitely can be very rewarding. But look for all the resources that you have in your community, and just take it all in and start small with something.
Thank you very much, Anita, Paul and Marta. Thank you, Nevila, and all the partners and colleagues who joined, Iselda as well, and Andrew and everyone else. Sorry if I cannot mention all the names. We had about 57 persons online, now currently 46, so it's a good group. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the day for you in the USA, and for the team in Albania. Have a nice evening, and we will keep this conversation going, and hopefully we will have other opportunities to engage and cooperate. Thank you very much. It was very productive, and all the best to everyone. And
Thank
we
you.
will make sure to share the contact and the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.